that can actually make our pupils to ask questions and think deeply. Those are the two objectives that we'll be looking at quickly during this session. So let's go on. What do you think of this picture? You can hear me. I would like you to say one or two. What do you think about this picture on the screen? What do you think about it? If you can hear me, please kindly respond. The room seems to be extremely quiet. I don't know if we're still having technical issues, but if you can hear me, can you just...
We can hear you, but we are not seeing your screen. Oh, okay, we can see your screen now.
Okay. So I had earlier, I said, what do you think about the picture that you're seeing currently on my screen? Can everyone share their thoughts about what they can see right here on my screen? At least I would like to hear one or two people before I go on, please. Okay, thank you, Blessing.
Okay,
Blessing says, I'm trying to read from the chat, and someone says, someone staring into the future. Yes. Can I get one more opinion before I move on? Can I get one more opinion? Thank you, Blessing, for that response. Can I get one more? Okay, thank you, Mr. Manuel says a staircase. Okay, yes. Blessing said someone staring into the future. And then Mr. Emmanuel says, oh, I can see a staircase. So you could see that two people looking at one particular picture, but they are interpreting it differently. That is exactly how classroom is expected to be, where children or our students have opportunity to express their diverse opinion, but that depends on how we begin our classroom. Now, the success of any classroom starts from the beginning. The tone we set will determine how our 40 minutes is going to be like. Okay, so if we continue to be that traditional teacher who just comes into the classroom and then gives out all the information, trust me, all our students are just going to keep quiet and they are going to take in the information and then roll with it. But of course, I know that today, no teacher, no quality teacher will still be on that practice. So thank you for your opinion on this. Now, okay, some blessings is the success of any, yes, thank you for that. Okay, I would also like to hear, what do you think curiosity is? We're looking at two critical factors now, or two key words now. We're looking at curiosity and we're also looking at critical thinking. What do you think these two words mean? If you've ever come across it, what does the two words mean to you? Curiosity and critical thinking. I want to thank everyone that has been participating, and I want to encourage us to keep it up to make this classroom quite engaging. So please, one or two persons, can you just tell me what you understand by curiosity or critical thinking? What do you think? Okay, so while my eyes is still...
Hello?
Yes, please go on, Ms. Blessing. You want to say something?
Okay, so curiosity for me is a strong desire to learn. A very strong desire to learn, to know, to understand, to unravel something new.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for that response. Is that desire to explore, to want to learn, okay, to ask questions. No wonder today every child wants to ask a question. You tell them, oh, go sit down. They ask you why. You tell them, oh, you can't have this. The next thing is, why can't I have it? No child of today will you just tell, go and sit, and the child goes. They really want to ask you why. Even when we discipline them, they are wondering why you are actually doing that to them. Thank you, Ms. Blessing, for that amazing response. And so it's quite important that we spark this curiosity in our various classes, because when we do so, what happens is we will not just have passive learners, we will have what we call active learners, learners who will ask questions. And when we start with curiosity, it deepens the learning of our learners. So if curiosity is about exploration, if curiosity is about asking questions, then what do you think critical thinking is? Yes, I would love someone to also share one or two ideas about what he or she thinks of critical thinking. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that response, I will move on. So when we talk about critical thinking, we're talking about the ability to analyze rather than just accepting information. So I tell you, oh, this water is black. And then the child goes about, why is this water black? What makes it black? And so I want to know why. I want to analyze the reason why this water is actually black. And when this happens, it makes our students to be problem solvers. And you know, one of the skills that the world is actually looking for today are problem solvers. So in other words, when we have these two in our various classes, that means we are making our students to be future ready. If we're getting something from what I'm saying, can you please just use your favorite emojis in the chat room so that I know that I'm not talking to myself? Thank you, Ms. Blessing, for being super active. I appreciate you. Please, I would like, thank you, Moyosowe. Thank you so much. Thank you for actually indicating that you're learning something. Thank you. So, let's look at the 3 pillars of a 21st century school. Schools have moved beyond just having classrooms and having students sit. Our curriculum has moved beyond just fulfilling all righteousness in the terms of I have a scheme of work that I need to fulfill, that I need to teach my children. Now we wonder why sometimes we lose our students in between learning. If your school or your classroom must be 21st century, then these 3 pillars must be present. 1, relevance. They must always find a way to link learning to real world concept. I've had teachers ask me that, oh, does that mean that all our topics have a link to real world? And my answer has always been yes. If a good teacher makes good research before going into the classroom, you will always know that there is a link of whatever it is that you are teaching in the classroom to the real world. If you do not link it to the real world, children will not find any good reason to learn. And that is why sometimes, you know, you teach a child probably a topic in year 1, and then the continuation happens in year 2. And then by the time the child gets to year 2, the child is wondering, as if the child has never come across that kind of topic before. That is because probably when the child was being taught in year 1, there was no link of that particular topic to real world. Let's say, for instance, you want to teach word classes. And so we are looking at the noun, the pronoun, etc. And we always know that the best activity we give our children is always for them to underline, identify the word class in this sentence, or use this word class to make a sentence. And usually that is always the end of it in our various classes. But there should always be an extension, right? Okay, so recently I taught was it a year 3 or year 4 class in my school, word class. And then we went ahead. I said, okay, when you get back home, take a look at the advert on the TV and then take a screenshot of it. Look at it and identify the word classes in it. I also gave them a poster. One had a complete word class, one did not have one. And so one made sense, the other did not make sense. So they understood that the word classes that we're actually teaching are just like ingredients that make their sentence to be meaningful. And so they understood that what classes are just like salt, seasoning that you add to a stew that make that soup to be very sweet. So if, for example, you're having a sentence and there is no verb, would there be a meaning? So we must try as much as possible to ensure that our curriculum has a link with the real world for our children to understand that they are not just learning a particular thing, but there is a need for it. If you got that, can I see a thumbs up in the chat room so that I will also know that I'm not talking to myself? If you have any question, you can also drop it. I will definitely be looking at it. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you so much for that. All right, so the second pillar is rigorous. Thank you, Mr. Deronke. Thank you so much. Thank you. Rigorous. Rigorous about pushing beyond what and why. And this is where the Bloom taxonomy comes in. But most of the time as educators, we are always limited to the first to second pyramid of the Bloom taxonomy. So we're always like, what is it? What is? Define, mention, list, without giving children deeper learning. When we take a look at the highest pyramid of the Bloom taxonomy, you would see that it encourages critical thinking. It encourages analyzing whatever it is that children have done. So we must go beyond the what, the mention, the define. We must allow our learning to make children to think deeper. Okay, so for example, instead of saying what is a noun, what mention types of noun, can we go beyond that and take a look at a sentence that has noun and the one that does not, and then we'll ask them to compare. This makes a child to sit down and think deeper, and of course it deepens their understanding of whatever concept that we are teaching. And most importantly, it even allows the teacher to know whether the children understood the concept or not. And lastly, responsibility. Let us allow our children to take ownership of their learning. Yes, we know that we teach children, we give them what they will be learning, but we can also go ahead and make them experts of their learning. Say, for instance, oh, tomorrow I want to teach, let's say, fraction in class tomorrow. And then I tell my children ahead of class, I want to take fraction tomorrow. Can team A read this? Can team B read this? And then the next day they come in, they take charge of the classroom. Everyone is saying, oh, this is what I read. The team A is starting the class. Team B follows suit. You can imagine what happens in such a classroom. Every child is responsible for whatever it is that they are learning. So they know that my teacher is not just the ultimate. I can also be responsible for whatever it is that I'm learning in the classroom. Okay, so we are not just raising learners who are just passive, who only believes that my teacher is the author and finisher of knowledge, but they also understand the fact that they also can also deliver by actually learning ahead of the classroom. That doesn't take away the point of scaffolding, that is support, but we must raise independent learners, children who can take ownership of whatever it is that they are learning. If they are being taught in the classroom, we push them further to read ahead, to read what has been taught, and then give room for feedback. So when we do these three things, when we imbibe these three things into our curriculum, relevant, rigorous, and responsible learning, we'll see that we turn out not just passive learners, but active learners who will take ownership of their learnings. If we got something from this slide, can I see another buzz in the chat room, please? Thank you. All right, so let's go to how do you start your lesson. These are simple strategies that we can actually use in our various classes. And it moves that classroom from being a teacher-centered to a student-centered. Like I said earlier, I said the tone of your classroom is set immediately you walk in. Say, for instance, I want to start a class, and then I display a picture on my chart, on my board, or on my slide, and the children sees it. So many children will have interpretations, different interpretations about that picture, just like I did when I started this. I showed a picture of a man staring on a long roll of stairs, and Ms. Blessing said something, Mr. Emmanuel said something else. That is exactly what happens in our classroom. It's curiosity. Immediately you display picture. Children are thinking, what is this woman about to teach us? What is it that this woman is driving at? Different children, different ideas. And then it makes it easier for a teacher to dive into the classroom. And that makes the classroom not just engaging, but also drive serious learning. So that's about story, that's about puzzle. And then we could also start our class with questions. Why do you think the ocean is always blue? Why do you think the seawater is salty? Everyone looks, why do you think seawater is salty? Children will come in different dimensions to answer that. So I can use questions to also start my classroom, to deepen understanding and to spark curiosity in my class. What about the use of the whys? And I mean the 5 whys. How do I do this? So I start a question, okay, with, let's say, for instance, I have a question on water, and then I show it on my board, and then I ask, what is this? The child tells me it's water. Oh, why do you think this is water? I said, oh, it's a liquid, it's colorless. Why do you think it's colorless? Oh, I can't see red, I can't see yellow. I can't hold on to any color. And so you use their response to keep asking questions. And the more you ask questions, the more they have a deeper understanding of what it is that you're actually doing. And so that's why we apply the 5 rules. So I can use the 5 rule with using the why questions to spark curiosity in my classroom. I start with 1 and then I use their response to keep asking. So I don't just focus on the core, I reach to higher level. So I keep asking until I see that indeed my children are now spark up for my classroom. So that is why I can use the why 5 rules. Also, I can scan for recall versus reasoning. If you take a look at the Bloom taxonomy, you would see that at the very bottom is recall, up to the very last level, which is reasoning. If we have an idea of the Bloom taxonomy, can somebody just tell me what you think? Because I want to know that we're on the same page. Do you have an understanding of the Bloom taxonomy? Let me start with that. Because I keep mentioning Bloom taxonomy, Bloom taxonomy. Can someone tell me some part of the Bloom taxonomy? Quickly, please. You could use the chat room. You can unmute to answer my question so that I'll be sure that I'm not talking to myself, please. Can everyone hear me? I hope I've not been talking to myself. Okay,
we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, so is there anyone who is ready to answer my question, please, for the Bloom taxonomy? Any quick response for the Bloom taxonomy? I said the Bloom taxonomy always starts with the recall, and then to the very top, it talks about analyzing. And so I said, instead of scanning through just recall, you scan through recall up to reasoning. And so you ask a child, what is it? What does this mean? Why do you think this means this? What if this is not it? And so when you start from what, it's just like starting from simple to complex. But what we're saying now is do not stop at the simple, dive deeper to the complex aspect of it. And so when you do that, what happens is you have learners who have a deep understanding of what you're talking about, and then you can also drive deep learning in your various classes. And of course, the 4th one is to look for real-world connection. Like I said before, we must never teach without having a link to the real world. So if you're teaching any topic, for instance, you must ensure that there is a link of it. So for example, you're taking money, okay, and you're talking about probably profit and loss, for example, and then you're talking about maybe house rent, okay, you're talking about activities that happens in the market. Why are we having consistent increase in price? Every child knows today that the economy is not super fantastic. Every home kind of say, fathers and mothers kind of says 1 or 2 things about money at home. So if I'm taking money in my classroom, I'm linking it to their homes. What do you think we use money for? Oh, everybody, my dad used money to pay for our house rent. He uses it to buy cars. He uses it to pay my tuition money. Okay, so I'm already teaching that using the real world. Okay, so when I have so much money, what do you think I should do with it? Oh, someone may say, I'll spend it all. Someone may say, oh, I'll save. Someone may say, I will use it to help people. Okay, so another way you can spark curiosity is to ensure that you look for real-world connection into whatever it is that you are teaching. There is nothing that you want to teach that does not have a connection with the real world, even in history. History is one of the most boring subjects anyone can teach. But of course, even in history, there's still a way we can link it to the real world in order to ensure that our children are actually learning, and they know that they are not learning for the learning's sake, but they are learning because it's important for them. All right, so let's move on quickly to check for surprise facts. Imagine I come into my classroom and on my board or on a flashcard or projecting, I put something like, every man dies at the age of 60. Every child begins to wonder, is it true that every man dies at the age of 60? It's just, this is not a real fact, right? But I could look for a very good fact that makes a child to go home and think, that is this true? Every time you eat sweet, one of your teeth will move. Is it possible? You know, That alone makes every child in the classroom look at one another and they are wondering, is this fact? Is it true? The essence of having a start like this is to ensure that your children are not just looking at you in the classroom, but to ensure that immediately you walk in, every child is up and doing. Their brains are working, they are thinking, they are not just accepting from you, rather they are also contributing, they're asking questions. Teachers are kept on their toes and everyone is thinking. So our classroom is not just a room, but an incubator. It's an experimental room where everyone is trying to share ideas. So I said at the beginning that we could use the why-5 rule. What I mean by the why-5 rule is ask questions with what is it? Why do you think? Why do you think this is this? And the response will keep allowing you to give the why and the why and the why. And I also said that you could use your story, your puzzle, or questions to also spark it. The questions can make children to begin to wonder, where is this teacher heading to? A story can attract or get children's attention within the first 5 minutes when you get into your classroom. When you scan for recall, almost similar to starting from simple to complex, and that is why I mentioned the Bloom taxonomy. It helps children to get engaged. So they are recalling, and at a point, the learning gets deeper. So they are going from just simple to complex. And I said in the fourth slide, I said, look for real world connection. That is, I am not just teaching you, but I'm linking what I'm teaching to real world. So they understand that this learning is not just for me to pass exam, but this is what is obtainable even in the real world. So they understand when they get outside of your classroom, they know that this learning is useful outside of the classroom. And then I also spoke about the check for surprise fact. Okay, something they've never known before. Do you know that at age 40, one can become a president? Really? So these are surprise facts that could spark a child's interest to get into the classroom. And of course, in the sixth one, I talk about exit ticket. And this is a point of reflection. I haven't taught everything. Can we allow our children to sit down and reflect on their learnings? And then share their takeaways. Oh, at the end of this, I was able to get this from Miss Alebiosh's class. Now I know that a noun is a naming word. So every child, okay, is able to reflect on their learning and be able to share their learnings with you. This is very important, not just for the children, but also for us educators, because it's like a form of feedback. So I know that, oh, all my activities, all my instructional materials, all my talk, all our conversations, all the engagement in the classroom is not in vain, but that every child has been able to get something. Also, on the other part, if your exit ticket, if your children are not saying anything, it shows that something went wrong in the classroom. And that's also a feedback. It tells us that, oh, I may have to go back again and probably re-strategize and then use a different method. So the exit ticket is a very important tool that we must all embrace, no matter how short your period is. They may not write it. They may share it verbally with you. And so you make sure that every child is given the opportunity to share their takeaways with you. And that makes you as teachers to also go back and reflect on your teaching for that day. If your teaching was successful, you take. If it wasn't successful, you sit down, you use your feedback to redesign your classroom. And so by the time you're going the next time, you'll be able to deliver more effectively. I hope we're able to get something from this session. If you've gotten something, can I see it in the chat room? What your takes are? What have you gotten? What strategy is resonating with you? What do you think? Have you tried any of this in your classroom? Or will you be trying any of this? And if you want to say something, you can also indicate by raising up your hand and I'll be glad to listen to you. Remember, we are teachers and we learn from one another. If you have tried any of this, please be free to share with me. I remember recently I did this training with my teachers in school, and within the first 2 weeks of our learning, of our teachers come into my office and say, oh, Mr. Alebiosu, this is good. I tried this, and even my student who does not talk, was able to raise up a hand and spoke, and then the classroom was buzzing with a lot of activity. So if you have used any of this, let me know if you've used. If you'll be using any of this, let me also know if you'll be using any of this. And if any of this also resonates with you, kindly share with me. If any of this also resonates with you, I'll be happy to actually read from you. All right. So let's go. I did a quick example of this, and remember that this cuts across all classes, whether in the elementary school, secondary, or even in the early years. This sample I did for early years or even the lower primary. Imagine I want to take a topic on weather, for example. And then, I go in with a mystery bag, and in that bag, there are different stuffs on it. Let's say I put in probably a real umbrella, depending on how big the bag is, sweater, picture of a cloud, etc. in the bag. And so I go into the classroom, and then I ask a child to come pick up, dip his hand in a mystery bag and pick an object out. The child picks it up, another child comes in, brings out another item, another child comes in, brings out another item. And then I ask, can you guess what kind of day do we use this? And then they say, oh, we use this during raining season. Really? And of course, that dives me straight into my topic for today. So we can use diverse methods. I could use just sound, no pictures, nothing, just sound from my MP3 to spark curiosity in my classroom. So for example, probably I want to take geography, for example, and we're talking about a desert. I could use animal sound, okay, for children to guess what kind of animal, okay, that is making that sound, and where can we actually find that kind of animal, okay? And so by so doing, every child is thinking. One thing about education today is education has gone beyond teachers coming in and being the active person in the classroom. Today, the whole thing has turned around. Everybody, both the teachers and the students, we must be active learners. Okay, I'm learning from the children are learning from me, because we all know that there is nothing we want to teach that the children do not have an idea of. Whether it is a wrong or the right one, they all have idea, no matter how little of what we're about to teach. But them sharing the ideas depends on how we introduce the topic that we're about to teach them. Yes, as an attitude with teenagers and youth, okay, I'm seeing something here. Please let me go to my chat. Sorry, Christopher, I'm trying to read your chat. Okay. So ask pupils to what kind of day that they will use. And so this goes a long way to determine the success of our class. So irrespective of the level of learning that you are teaching, it is important that we use curiosity and critical thinking to start our various classes. All right. I'll be happy to take questions if you have any. So, in conclusion, I say a 21st century class must start with curiosity, insert critical thinking in the middle, and ensure reflection at the end. 3 things, very key. Is your classroom starting with curiosity? In the middle of, are you inserting critical thinking? And then are you ensuring reflection? The reflection that gives feedback and that allows you to move on or to revisit the topic again. I'll be dropping these 3 ideas, these 3 things with you, these 3 words: curiosity, critical thinking, and reflection. If you have not been doing it as a teacher in the classroom, I think this is something you should emulate even as we go into the 3rd week of resumption. Take a look at your design again. Is it sparking curiosity? Is it tending towards a curiosity start? Is there a critical thinking aspect of it? And then have you made room for reflection at the end of your teaching? I tell you what, if you do this in your class, you'll be having a different set of learners. And your questions will be different. You will no longer be asking or be limited to define, mention, list. You'll be asking deeper questions, because what the world is looking for are problem solvers, not just people who can recall facts, but people who can solve problems. And I think we should start now, even in our various schools. I want to say thank you for this opportunity. I'm still here to take questions. If you have any, I'll be happy to take it. Thank you, everyone.
Oh my.
If you have questions, please, I'll be happy to take questions. If you have any questions, I'll be super happy to take it. If you have contributions,